The NFL draft is not a surefire thing. Some of the athletes who have had the most hype put on them have ended up being massive disappointments. Some of these draft busts are fairly infamous, with Jamarcus Russell, Johnny Manziel, and Zach Wilson all being lodged in everyone's recent memory. But what about the players that ended up being busts that we forgot about? Today I wanted to make a video about some of the forgotten draft busts in history. Blake Bortles entered the NFL with significant hype and expectations as the third overall pick in the 2014 NFL Draft. Coming out of the University of Central Florida, Bortles had impressed scouts with his combination of size, arm strength, and mobility. His college performance was strong enough to lead UCF to a historic 12-1 season in 2013, and his impressive showing in the Fiesta Bowl elevated his draft stock. Selected by the Jacksonville Jaguars as their presumed franchise quarterback, Bortles was expected to become the cornerstone for a team in desperate need of a leader under center. Bortles' NFL career started with a mix of potential and growing pains. His rookie season was tough as he threw for 2,908 yards with 11 touchdowns and 17 interceptions over 13 starts, reflecting the struggles of a young quarterback adapting to the pro level. However, the Jaguars remained optimistic, and in his second year, Bortles showed flashes of brilliance. He threw for 4,428 yards and 35 touchdowns, ranking him among the league leaders in passing yards and touchdowns. Despite the impressive stats, turnovers were a persistent issue, as he also led the league in interceptions. The 2017 season proved to be the peak of Bortles' career and a rare bright spot in his time with Jacksonville. Behind a strong defense and solid run game, the Jaguars went 10-6 and made a playoff run that culminated in an AFC Championship game appearance against the New England Patriots. Bortles played efficiently in the postseason, however the Jaguars fell short against the Patriots, and Bortles' performance in that game, though competent, did little to dispel doubts about his long-term viability as a franchise quarterback. The following seasons showed the limitations of Bortles' game, as inconsistent accuracy, poor mechanics, and a high turnover rate came back to haunt him. The Jaguars moved on from Bortles after the 2018 season, ending his time in Jacksonville. In total, he threw for 17,646 yards with 103 touchdowns and 75 interceptions in his 5 years with the team. He ended up going 24-49 as a starter and seemed unable to be a winning quarterback despite his flashes of talent. Bortles signed as a backup with the Los Angeles Rams in 2019 and had short stints with the Denver Broncos and Green Bay Packers in subsequent seasons. By 2022, Bortles quietly announced his retirement, acknowledging his inability to find a stable starting role in the NFL. Despite some early promise and the 2017 playoff run, Blake Bortles ultimately didn't live up to his draft expectations, leaving his legacy as one of the higher profile draft busts in recent memory. While his career had its moments, Bortles was unable to sustain success, and the Jaguars' search for a franchise quarterback continued long after his departure. Shane Ray came into the NFL as one of the most promising defensive prospects, a fierce pass rusher out of the University of Missouri. Known for his explosiveness off the edge and relentless pursuit of quarterbacks, Ray won SEC Defensive Player of the Year in 2014, posting 14.5 sacks and establishing himself as a formidable defensive force. Despite a toe injury and some off-field issues before the draft, his raw talent and college production were enough for the Denver Broncos to select him 23rd overall in the 2015 NFL Draft, hoping he could develop into a star alongside Von Miller. Ray's rookie season with Denver started quietly as he found himself behind a deep and talented group of pass rushers, including Miller and DeMarcus Ware. However, he managed to make an impact, recording 4 sacks and contributing to a stout Broncos defense. That defense went on to become legendary, carrying Denver to a Super Bowl 50 victory over the Carolina Panthers. With Ware's eventual retirement, the Broncos expected Ray to step up and solidify himself as a permanent fixture alongside Miller. In 2016, Ray showed glimpses of his potential, putting up 8 sacks and earning a starting role, but unfortunately that would be the peak of his NFL career. In 2017, a wrist injury derailed his season and multiple surgeries followed, forcing him to miss significant time. Ray struggled to regain his form and his production plummeted as the Broncos' defense went through its own challenges. He finished the 2017 season with only 1 sack, far from the impact the team had expected. With the Broncos facing the reality that they needed to cut players in order to begin their rebuild, it was clear that Ray really had not been enough of a strong presence to justify bringing him back. By 2018, Ray was no longer the pass-rushing force he once showed flashes of becoming. His injuries lingered, and the Broncos decided not to pick up his fifth-year option, making him a free agent after a disappointing season where he recorded just 1 sack. Ray had brief stints with the Baltimore Ravens and eventually took a shot in the CFL, but injuries and inconsistency followed him. He is currently bouncing around practice squad teams and trying to make a roster. Justin Harrell entered the NFL as a highly touted defensive tackle out of the University of Tennessee, known for his strength and potential to disrupt offensive lines. Despite suffering a torn bicep that ended his senior season early, Harrell's physical traits and raw talent convinced the Green Bay Packers to select him 16th overall in the 2007 NFL Draft. The team believed he could develop into a dominant force on their defensive front, but injuries and inconsistency would ultimately define his career, leaving Harrell as one of the most disappointing picks in Packers' recent history. Harrell's NFL career started off on a sour note as injuries that plagued him in college continued to follow him to the pros. He managed to play only 7 games as a rookie, primarily as a rotational player, and failed to make a significant impact on the field. The following season in 2008, back problems emerged, leading to surgeries that kept him sidelined for most of the year. When he did manage to play, his performances were underwhelming, and he struggled to find his footing on a Green Bay defense that needed a strong presence up front. Despite being in a scheme that theoretically put him in plenty of positions to make big plays, he wasn't able to actually create an impact. The back issues persisted into 2009, and Harrell was placed on injured reserve before the season even began. By this point, fans and analysts were already labeling him a bust, as he had appeared in only 13 games in 3 years, failing to record a single sack. In 2010, Harrell made one final attempt at a comeback, returning to the team with hopes of reviving his career. However, in his first game of the season, he suffered a torn ACL, ending his season and effectively his career with the Packers. No matter how hard he was training, he just wasn't able to overcome the injury bug that seemed to follow. Harrell's NFL career was ultimately a story of potential crushed by persistent injuries. He finished his 4-year stint in the league with only 28 tackles and 0 sacks across a mere 14 games. For the Packers, Harrell's selection became one of their most criticized draft choices, highlighting the risks teams take when drafting players with a history of injuries. Despite his high draft position and potential, Justin Harrell's time in the NFL ended without the impact he was once projected to make, making him a stark example of how difficult the transition to the NFL can be when health is a constant barrier. It also is especially painful for Packers fans because a solid pick at that time could have been the difference maker to get them another Super Bowl. Kenneth Simms entered the NFL with high expectations, hailed as a dominant force on the defensive line from the University of Texas. He was the first overall pick in the 1982 NFL Draft by the New England Patriots, a team looking for a game-changer on defense. Simms had showcased his skills as a Longhorn, where he won the Lombardi Award as the nation's top lineman and was named an All-American. However, injuries and inconsistency plagued his NFL career, leading to a legacy far removed from the hype that surrounded his draft status. Simms faced challenges almost immediately after joining the Patriots. He struggled to stay healthy and adapt to the intensity of the professional level. In his rookie season, a leg injury limited his playing time, setting a tone for the remainder of his career. Each year seemed to bring a new physical setback, from torn muscles to broken bones, preventing Simms from developing into the dominant presence New England had hoped for on the defensive line. When he did play, he flashed moments of his college brilliance, but those were few and far between as injuries sidelined him for extended periods. Despite being a part of some memorable Patriots squads, Simms' overall impact on the field was limited. He managed only 17 sacks in his 8-year career, a figure far below what was expected from a first overall pick. Frustrations mounted for both Simms and the team as his injuries continued to take a toll. By the late 1980s, Simms' role had significantly diminished, and after a short injury-riddled stint, the Patriots released him, effectively ending his NFL career in 1989. In hindsight, Kenneth Simms' career is often remembered as a major disappointment, especially given his high draft position. For the Patriots, his selection remains one of their more unfortunate first-round picks. Despite showing potential in flashes, Simms was unable to overcome his injury struggles, leaving fans and analysts to wonder what might have been if he'd stayed healthy. Kevin White was a standout wide receiver at West Virginia University, drawing attention with his size, speed, and remarkable catching ability. His breakout senior season in 2014 included 109 receptions, 1,447 yards, and 10 touchdowns, making him one of the most sought-after prospects in the 2015 NFL Draft. The Chicago Bears, looking to strengthen their receiving corps, selected White with the 7th overall pick, hoping he would become a game-changing offensive weapon. However, White's career quickly became defined by injury struggles and unrealized potential, making him one of the biggest draft disappointments of recent years. White's trouble began almost immediately when a shin injury during his rookie training camp required surgery, forcing him to miss the entire 2015 season. The setback was a huge blow to the Bears, who were banking on his talent to rejuvenate their offense. White returned in 2016, showing brief flashes of his ability, but after just 4 games, he fractured his fibula, ending his season prematurely. It was a brutal start to what was supposed to be a promising career, and it set a pattern that would continue. The 2017 season offered little relief as White once again went down with a season-ending injury, this time with a fractured scapula after just 1 game. Fans and analysts began to question whether White's body could handle the demands of the NFL, as he had now missed the majority of 3 consecutive seasons. Despite his high draft pedigree, he had played in only 5 games, catching 21 passes for 193 yards and no touchdowns, a far cry from the expectations placed on a top 10 draft pick. White's time with the Bears ended in 2018 after another underwhelming season. Despite short stints with other teams, including the Cardinals, 49ers, and Saints, he never managed to stay on the field long enough to make an impact, and he officially exited the league as one of the most notorious draft busts in recent memory. Peria Jerry entered the NFL with high hopes as a powerful, disruptive defensive tackle from the University of Mississippi. After a standout college career where he earned first-team All-SEC honors and was known for his ability to pressure quarterbacks and stop the run, Jerry was selected by the Atlanta Falcons with the 24th overall pick in the 2009 NFL Draft. The Falcons saw him as a long-term solution for their defensive line. Unfortunately, Jerry's NFL career would be marked by setbacks, inconsistency, and ultimately unmet expectations. Jerry's rookie season started with promise, but just 2 games into his NFL career, he suffered a severe knee injury, tearing his ACL. This injury sidelined him for the remainder of the season, and recovery proved to be an uphill battle. Although Jerry returned in 2010, his explosiveness and ability to disrupt plays seemed diminished. While he was able to stay relatively healthy for the next few seasons, he struggled to match the potential he'd shown in college. Each season was punctuated with small injuries and limited production on the field. Despite flashes of his college talent, Jerry never became the playmaker Atlanta had envisioned. Across his career, he recorded just 5.5 sacks and a limited number of tackles, failing to live up to his first-round status. The Falcons kept him on the roster, hopeful he would regain his form, but Jerry's impact on the field remained minimal. In 2014, after 5 underwhelming seasons, Jerry made the surprising decision to retire during training camp. Though still young, he decided to step away from the game, signaling the end of a career that had never reached its potential. Dwayne Jarrett arrived in the NFL with immense promise, coming off an impressive college career at the University of Southern California. As a USC Trojan, Jarrett was a dominant force at wide receiver, known for his size, reliable hands, and ability to make clutch catches in key moments. He finished his college career with 216 receptions, 3,138 receiving yards, and 41 touchdowns, breaking the previous Pac-10 record for career touchdowns set by fellow USC alum and NFL star Keyshawn Johnson. Jarrett's skill set and college production made him a highly anticipated prospect, and the Carolina Panthers selected him in the 2nd round of the 2007 NFL Draft, expecting him to bring his big play ability to the professional level. However, his transition to the NFL would prove disappointing. Jarrett's rookie season was largely uneventful. Though he possessed the physical traits and college pedigree, he struggled to adjust to the speed and intensity of the NFL. The Panthers coaching staff questioned his work ethic, and he failed to make a significant impact on the field, catching only 6 passes for 73 yards over his first season. Despite being given opportunities to compete for a starting role in 2008, Jarrett remained buried on the depth chart behind veterans like Steve Smith and Muhsin Muhammad. His sophomore season saw a slight improvement, but he still managed only 10 catches for 119 yards. As Jarrett entered his third season, the Panthers were hopeful he could finally break out and live up to his potential, but he continued to underperform. In 2009, Jarrett's lack of production on the field was compounded by legal troubles off it. He was arrested for DUI, casting further doubt on his commitment and discipline. While the Panthers kept him on the roster, he faced growing scrutiny and pressure to prove himself. By 2010, Jarrett's role had diminished significantly, and he was barely seeing any playing time. Another DUI arrest in October of that year was the final straw, and the Panthers released him shortly thereafter. After his release from the Panthers, Jarrett's NFL career was effectively over. He briefly explored options in the Canadian Football League, but never managed to regain traction as a professional player. Jarrett's short-lived career became a cautionary tale of wasted potential. He had entered the NFL with the physical attributes and college accolades to succeed, but was unable to make the necessary adjustments in work ethic and focus that the professional level demanded. Looking back, Dwayne Jarrett's NFL career stands as one of unfulfilled promise. His combination of talent and collegiate success suggested he could have been a major asset for any team. However, lack of preparation, legal issues, and an inability to translate his skills to the NFL game led to one of the more disappointing careers for a highly touted college receiver. Limas Sweed entered the NFL with high expectations, following a stellar college career at the University of Texas. As a Texas Longhorn, Sweed showcased his athleticism, size, and hands, making him one of the top receivers in the nation. He was particularly known for his ability to make big catches in critical moments, highlighted by his memorable game-winning touchdown catch against Ohio State in 2005. Over his college career, Sweed recorded 124 receptions, 1,915 yards, and 20 touchdowns, and his 6'4" frame made him an enticing prospect. The Pittsburgh Steelers selected him in the second round of the 2008 NFL Draft, envisioning him as a physical, deep threat who could bolster their receiving cores. However, Sweed's NFL journey would be marred by setbacks and unfulfilled potential. Sweed's rookie season was a difficult adjustment. Although he had the physical tools, he struggled to adapt to the NFL's high level of competition, and his confidence quickly became an issue. He found it difficult to break into the Steelers lineup, competing for playing time with veterans like Hines Ward and emerging stars like Santonio Holmes. In limited action during his first season, Sweed made just 6 catches for 64 yards, showing flashes of potential but failing to earn consistent opportunities. His most infamous moment came in the AFC Championship game against the Baltimore Ravens, where he dropped a critical, wide-open pass that would have likely led to a touchdown. The drop became a turning point in Sweed's young career, as it visibly shook his confidence and cast doubt over his reliability as a receiver. Determined to make a comeback in 2009, Sweed returned with a positive mindset, but struggled to overcome his reputation for drops. He had another high-profile drop in the end zone early in the season, which further eroded the coaching staff's trust in him. Despite his potential and occasional flashes in practice, Sweed finished the season with only 1 catch for 5 yards. The Steelers tried to be patient with their young receiver, understanding his potential, but his inability to perform in high-pressure situations held him back. The Steelers have always been good at developing receiver talent, but for some reason, Sweed couldn't make it work in their system. In 2010, Sweed's fortunes took another downturn when he tore his Achilles tendon in training camp, forcing him to miss the entire season. The injury was a major setback as it sidelined him during a critical time when he needed to prove himself. By the time he returned, the Steelers had moved on, adding new talent at the wide receiver position. Sweed was cut from the team in 2011, ending his tenure in Pittsburgh without ever reaching his projected potential. He briefly attempted comebacks with other teams, including a tryout with the New York Giants, but he was unable to secure a long-term spot on any NFL roster. Troy Williamson entered the NFL with sky-high expectations after an impressive college career at the University of South Carolina. Known for his elite speed and deep threat capability, he was touted as a receiver who could stretch the field and create explosive plays. Williamson's junior season at South Carolina turned heads, with 43 catches for 835 yards and 7 touchdowns, which led him to forgo his senior year and declare for the 2005 NFL Draft. The Minnesota Vikings, who had recently traded away star receiver Randy Moss were eager to fill the void. They selected Williamson with the 7th overall pick, expecting him to be a game changer for their offense. However, Williamson's NFL career would be plagued by inconsistency, and he quickly became one of the league's most notable failed picks. Williamson's rookie season was a sign of things to come. Despite his speed, he struggled with route running, and most notably catching the ball consistently. Drops became a persistent issue, causing frustration for the Vikings coaching staff and fans alike. He finished his rookie season with only 24 receptions for 372 yards and 2 touchdowns. While it was expected that he would improve with more experience, his sophomore season in 2006 showed little progress. Williamson managed just 37 receptions for 455 yards and 0 touchdowns, with his drops becoming a defining part of his game. His hands, or lack thereof, became the subject of criticism and even ridicule as fans and analysts questioned the Vikings' decision to draft him so high. In 2007, Williamson's struggles continued, and he finished the season with only 18 receptions for 240 yards. To make matters worse, he became embroiled in off-field issues, including a high-profile conflict with head coach Brad Childress. The team fined Williamson for missing practices, though he later explained that he had missed time to be with his family after the death of his grandmother. The tension between Williamson and the team only worsened, leading to a lack of trust on both sides. By this point, the Vikings had clearly lost faith in their top draft pick, and Williamson's time in Minnesota was running out. In 2008, the Vikings traded Williamson to the Jacksonville Jaguars for a 6th-round pick, marking the end of his disappointing tenure in Minnesota. While Jacksonville hoped that a fresh start might revive his career, Williamson's struggles followed him to his new team. In his 2 seasons with the Jaguars, he managed only 8 receptions for 64 yards. Injuries also began to take a toll on Williamson, and he was eventually released in 2010, effectively ending his NFL career. J.P. Losman entered the NFL with high hopes and lofty expectations. A standout quarterback at Tulane University, Losman was known for his strong arm and athletic ability. In the 2004 NFL Draft, the Buffalo Bills selected him 22nd overall, seeing him as their quarterback of the future. Buffalo made a trade with the Dallas Cowboys to jump back into the 1st round to secure Losman, investing heavily in what they hoped would be a franchise quarterback to lead them back to playoff contention. But Losman's NFL career would prove to be rocky and marked by inconsistency, ultimately branding him one of the league's most notable draft busts. Losman's rookie season got off to a tough start. He suffered a broken leg in training camp, which kept him on the sidelines for much of the season and limited his chances to develop early on. When he returned, he found himself competing for playing time with veteran quarterbacks Drew Bledsoe and later Kelly Holcomb, which complicated his path to becoming a starter. Finally, in 2005, Losman was named the Bills' starting quarterback. His season was marked by poor performances and inconsistency, and he was soon benched in favor of Holcomb after just a few games. Losman finished the season with just 8 touchdown passes and 8 interceptions, casting doubt over his future as the Bills' long-term solution. In 2006, Losman showed flashes of potential and had his best statistical season, throwing for over 3,000 yards and 19 touchdowns. He developed chemistry with star receiver Lee Evans, leading to several big plays and victories that year. Despite the improvement, he was still inconsistent, struggling with decision-making and turnovers. The Bills remained stuck in mediocrity, and Losman couldn't deliver the level of play needed to elevate them in a competitive AFC East. While his performance improved statistically, the coaching staff and front office were not convinced he could lead the team to consistent success. By 2007, the Bills had drafted quarterback Trent Edwards, and Losman's hold on the starting job began to slip. After starting the season, he was benched in favor of Edwards following another string of underwhelming performances. Losman's career in Buffalo ended quietly after the 2008 season, as he left the Bills with a record of 10-23 as a starter and a career passer rating below 80. He bounced around a few teams over the next few years, including short stints with the Oakland Raiders, Seattle Seahawks, and Miami Dolphins, but never regained his footing as an NFL starter. But those are just some of the forgotten draft busts from NFL history. The draft is a lot more likely to produce a dud than it is a diamond. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to press the like button and comment down below, as it really helps the video in the algorithm. We are trying to hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year and would love your help. We post 3 times a week and take suggestions from the comments. Thank you for watching.